The Russian army continued its offensive action in Ukraine, adding new fronts and trying to advance on Kharkiv. At least 10 Russian soldiers did manage to reach Kharkiv, but there is a catch. Hey, my name is Alex, and this is a quick update on the Russian-Ukrainian war from the perspective of someone living within it. The overall situation on the front is starting to level out. The resumption of aid from Western countries has immediately improved things. More and more videos from Ukrainian positions confirm that ammunition is arriving. In the so-called Second Army of the world, the Russian army, despite attempts to show how well things are going, the reality is quite different. This is evidenced by this kind of motivations from commanders in the form of burst from a Kalashnikov near a soldier ear. And here is the loss statistic for both sides as of May 16th. In red, Russian armed forces losses, 72 units. In blue, Ukrainian armed forces losses, 32 units. Ratio 1 to 2.25 in favor of Ukraine. And now let's move on to the overview of the situation at the front. Kharkiv front section. Fighters of the 13th Brigade Katia repelled an attack by an enemy infantry unit on the eastern outskirts of Liptsi, but the enemy infantry entrenched in the forest area west of Lukyanivtsi, from where the attack originated. Vovchansk. The enemy advanced up to 2.9 kilometers wide and up to 900 meters deep. Fighting continues in the northern part of the town near the hospital and at the intersection of Korolenko and Oles Dostoyny streets. A video shows a group of Russian soldiers trying to probe our defenses in the eastern part of the city near the Volcha River. It shows the group encountering an Ukrainian soldier who starts firing at them at almost point-blank range. After this, the group begins to move west along the shore, on the right or north side. Here are the footage of street fighting for Vovchansk. As seen in the video, the battle is on the outskirts of the town, in a residential area. And these frames show a missile and bomb strike by the Russians on a bridge in the city. The Russians are trying to complicate logistics for the defense forces by destroying bridges. Judging by the video, they failed to destroy this bridge, only partially damaging it. The situation in Vovchansk is very volatile. Either the Russians will manage to push through and capture it, or we will clear the town of the enemy and possibly push them back to Russia. A feature of this direction is that the front line has not yet stabilized. There are no trenches on either sides and no solid defense. In such situations, the introduction of additional reserves or a few maneuvers by one side can change everything. Here we have a slight advantage because we have some defensive fortifications, unlike the enemy, who will find it harder to entrench during a retreat. The future of a town depends not only on the outcomes of the battles in the residential area, but also in the surrounding areas. This captured Russian in Vovchansk says their task was to capture the town in 2 days. Well, what can I say? You clearly missed all the deadlines. Overall, the situation on this front looks more controlled at the moment than it was a few days ago. West on this front, in the Sumy region, where another Russian front is expected to open, the Russians are planning something at the border, pulling equipment closer to the line of contact, reports the 24th IDAR Battalion. Whether this is a simulation or real preparation for an offensive is currently unknown, but the operators of the 103rd Lviv Brigade Wings to Hell did not wait for an answer and destroyed 2 Russian T-72 tanks in the Kursk region, Russia. On the Svativ front section, Russian troops continues to press along the railway north of Kislivka village, with the aim of subsequent attack towards Ivanivka, southern of which the enemy is also attempting to improve their tactical positions. West and south of Krakhmalne, the enemy occupied a section up to 5 kilometers wide and up to 1.7 kilometers deep, and continuous attacks towards the village of Berestove. north of which fighters of the 110th Territorial Defense Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine destroyed an enemy tank damaged by a mine using a FPV drone, Chivar sector. The Chivar direction maintains a high pace of combat operations on the eastern outskirts of Kaliningrad, within the Stupki-Golubovsky 2nd Reserve Territory, and in the area of Ivanivsky. On May 16th, a large mechanized assault around Ivanivsky was stopped. This frame shows an episode of this attack. Also, infantry assaults have continued for the past 3 days around Ivanivsky without stopping. Lately, the enemy has also been active in the Andriivka area. But according to fighters from the 93rd OMB, this won't last long, as they suffer heavy losses during such assaults and will soon take another pause to gather new forces. This time, the Russians launched an assault with 6 units of equipment, among which a tank garage can be seen again, covered with metal plates. But this did not help to avoid destruction from the strikes of the defense forces. The enemy was met by soldiers with javelins and FPV drones, and the attack was successfully repelled. The enemy continues to destroy the town of Chivar by shelling it with everything available, using UAVs, artillery, mortars, and various types of drones. The main logistic road to the town is under Russian fire control, so ammunition supplies are delivered under the enemy fire. Here are the frames of the Russian aviation work filmed by a Russian soldier over the city of Bakhmut. As for the city of Bakhmut itself, it can be seen that the Russian world has come to it, leaving behind complete ruins. Also, from the latest footage, we observe the destruction of the Russian self-propelled artillery unit Msta-S. This is in the area of occupied city of Popasna, approximately 6 km to the east, beyond the boundaries of this map. The situation in this sector of the front remains largely unchanged, despite all the efforts of the Russian army. Direction of Avdiivka. High pace of combat operations is maintained in the area of Arkhangelsk and Novo-Oleksandrivka. The Russian army fails to advance. Russians in their chats complain that they are unable to advance in the area of Ocheretino. And near the settlement of Solovyovo, Ukrainian defense forces conducted a successful counterattack, repelling several positions. Here the footage of the work of Bradley of the 47th Brigade west of Solovyovo, which went through with Browning on the dugout where Russian infantry was entrenched. High pace of combat actions are also observed east of Novopokrovsk, southwest of Semenivka, and in the area of Umansky. At the time of video recording, no significant progress is reported. The situation in the area of Umansky is being clarified. Unit of the 47th Magyura Brigade shares videos of their work on restraining and destroying the Russian army in this sector of the front. Russians are increasingly using lightly armored or even unarmored vehicles. In this video, hunting for Russians golf enthusiasts in this sector of the front. The most reckless Russian soldiers attempt attacks even on ordinary bikes. Here, for example, is a trick with the disappearance of a Russian biker, performed by the operators of strike drones of the favorite unit of the 107th Separate Brigade of Territorial Defense, Kharkiv direction. On the footage, a smoking Russian tank garage is filmed precisely in this sector. Krasnohorivka. After the defense forces abandoned the factory, the focus of the battles shifted to the northern part of the city. This part of the city consists of practically completely destroyed private sector houses, difficult to defend due to artillery and aviation strikes. The enemy is not in a hurry, first using artillery, then small assault groups from a reinforced platoon to a company. After capturing the fire resistance plant, they ceased to use aviation. They used the plant to concentrate assault groups. Troops are being deployed near the hospital to carry out attack actions towards the city center. Georgiivka. Pobjeda. Tactical actions of Russian assault groups are recorded without advancement. Paraskoivka. Actions of enemy assault groups near the outskirts of the settlement are noted. And in this frame, the battles for the village of Novomikhailivka, as seen through the eyes of the soldiers of the 199th Training Center of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Direction of Veliko Novoselivka. The enemy continues to press from the south of Staromayorsk and Urozhaine. The armed forces of Ukraine attacked enemy armored vehicles in Urozhaine near the abandoned farm at the point marked on the map, Robotine sector. Occupiers persist in attempt to advance northwest of Verbove. Intense battles are ongoing in Robotine. Recently, the Russians experienced another bout of psychological distress, and they once again celebrated the capture of Robotine. However, those Russians whose relatives or acquaintances are fighting in this area quickly dispelled this myth. Tavria sector. It is reported that the Russians have resumed activity on the left bank, apparently receiving new reinforcements. The Russians have brought in Grad-fire missile systems, field artillery, and are once again deploying infantry. Our guys with FPV are satisfied. Finally, there is work to be done and some Russians to send to meet their ancestors. In the footage, the village of Krinky, or rather what remains of it, where Ukrainian still maintains its foothold. Further down on the Dnipro River, the Russians are attempting to dislodge the defensive forces from Nestriha Island, control over which the defensive forces recently regained. They regularly send assault groups to reclaim the island, which are successfully transformed into food for the Dnipro crayfish, even before reaching the island. In the footage shared by commander of the strike drones unit under the call sign Magyar, one of such attempts by the Russian is captured, along with its outcomes. At present, the island is under full control of the Ukrainian defense forces. No changes have been observed in the rest of the sectors. Another notable event on the front in recent days was an attempt by the operators of the Heavenly Mara unit of the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade to hit a Russian Mi-24 helicopter using an FPV drone. The attempt was unsuccessful this time. During the night of May 16th, the Russians launched another batch of Iranian drones into Ukraine, totaling 20 units. According to official information from the Ukrainian side, all drones were destroyed. In the latter half of the day, the Russians struck Kharkiv with rockets. It seems it hit something, judged by the thick black smoke. Ukraine responded by the striking key military and industrial targets in Russia. Russia claims to have intercepted everything as usual. As evidence of the Downing and Atacms missiles, the Russians like to publish blogs like this, as if showing downed missiles. But this proves nothing. At the final stage, the booster block detaches from the payload, thus remaining almost undamaged. In this photo, it is the spent booster block of the MGM-140 Atacms, which delivered the charge to the Belbek Air Base in occupied Crimea at night. Here are satellite images of the damaged Belbek Air Base in Crimea. The first photo was taken on May 1st and the second on the May 16th, where there were two MiG-31S and a warehouse. You can see traces of burning. Here are higher quality shots. You can see the two MiG-31S and one Su-27 jet have completely burned. It is also clear that another Su-27 jet, visually intact, is likely also damaged by debris, otherwise it would have been evacuated. It's also visible that the storage facility for fuel and lubrication is completely destroyed. Ukraine also conducted strike overnight on the seaport where the Russian Black Sea Fleet is based.
Порт подорвали, порт взорвали наш порт.
An oil depot, a fuel oil terminal and the Transneft facility in Novorossiysk, Krasnodar Krai, Russia. Here are more shots of the attack on Novorossiysk right from the scene.
О, слышь? На эстакаду прилетело.
It hit the overpass.
На эстакаду прилетело.
That's it, we no longer have an overpass.
И резервуаров нет у нас.
And we no longer have tanks.
Ждали.
By early morning, an oil refinery in Tuapse, Krasnodar Krai, Russia, was also hit by a UAV. Here are more shots of the same event, the moment of the drone impact. It's important to understand that this is only what's captured on video, and I believe there is a lot that remains unseen. For example, Ukrainian drones also attacked a vital military facility in Tula, which called Basalt. This is a key Russian facility for producing ammunition and supplying arms to the ground forces, air forces and navy of the Russian Federation. Attacks by Ukrainian aquatic drones are also being recorded. The footage shows Russian helicopter firing an unidentified maritime drones. And here are the fresh photos of such drones published by Russians. You can see that they now have missile armaments on board. This means the direction is alive and evolving. And that wraps up today's video. If you found this information helpful or somehow insightful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye!